Hi, welcome to Mindful Chatting. I want to ask you a question. Have you ever met someone and suddenly they were like all you could think about? You check your phone constantly, maybe you analyze every text that you send or you get back from them. You replay every conversation in your head. If they seem distant or your mood changes, if they text back, you feel relieved. It's almost felt like your emotional state maybe depended on what they did next. And many will call that being head over heels with people, but sometimes it's something completely else. Today, I want to talk about a concept that doesn't get discussed nearly enough: love addiction. And before you tune out because that sounds super dramatic, I want you to just stay with me for a second. Because love addiction isn't really about loving someone too much. It's about what happens when attachment wounds convince us that another person holds the key to our worth, our safety, and our identity. But don't worry, we're going to unpack this together.
Welcome to Mindful Chatting, a podcast where therapy meets real life. I'm Kristen, a therapist, business owner, and a lifelong student of what it means to fully show up in our relationships, in our work, and in our healing. Here, we unpack mental health concepts, explore mindfulness tools, and talk through the messy, beautiful, in-between moments that shape us. Whether you're a fellow clinician, a curious listener, or someone navigating your own growth, this space is for you. Let's chat.
So, when most people hear the phrase love addiction, they often imagine someone who falls in love every week with like a different person. And that's not really what we're going to be talking about here. Love addiction is a pattern where relationships become that primary source of your emotional regulation, your identity, and your self worth. So your thoughts become so consumed by another person that their mood determines your mood, or their attention determines your confidence and reassurance, and their absence may feel unbearable to you. This isn't because you're weak. It's often because your nervous system has learned that closeness equals survival. Love addiction isn't about needing another person. It's about believing you need another person to feel okay. And attachment theory helps us kind of understand why this happens in certain people. As children, we learn what relationships should feel like. So let me think about your relationships in regards to your past. Were they predictable, safe, consistent, or were they confusing, inconsistent, and maybe conditional? If love felt really uncertain, your nervous system may have learned to stay hypervigilant. And as an adult, uncertainty itself can begin to feel really familiar to you, and sometimes even attractive. That's why emotionally unavailable partners often feel magnetic and intense, not because they're healthier, because they're familiar to you and your nervous system. I think one thing I've learned in both my professional and my personal life is that many people don't realize that they're chasing reassurance, not connection. There's a huge difference because connection says, I enjoy being with you, while reassurance says, please convince me that I'm enough. And that's a painful distinction to recognize, but it's also incredibly freeing when you do. Because once you can identify the need, you can begin meeting it in a healthier way.
If you're working on staying present and grounded, which me too, we all need, especially when your brain wants to spiral into what we call disconnection. Yeah, it's Brain FM. It's musically designed to help ADHD brains, well, really any brain, to focus, relax, sleep, and I use it almost daily. If you want to try it, I've dropped my link in the show notes. And if you're looking for planning tools and ADHD resources, they're in there too.
So let's talk about the addictive cycle, because love addiction often has this really predictable pattern. So first there's excitement, then comes uncertainty, then there's anxiety, and then there's reassurance, which brings relief. And that relief feels so good that your brain begins to crave it. Not because the relationship is healthy, but because intermittent reassurance creates this powerful emotional reinforcement for you. It's kind of similar to why people continue pulling the lever on a slot machine. You never know when you're going to get that reward. And that unpredictability keeps you engaged. And then healthy relationships, they don't rely on unpredictability to create connection, because you deserve a relationship that brings you peace, not emotional withdrawal symptoms. So let's talk about the attachment awareness cycle. So the next time you find yourself obsessing over someone, I just want you to pause and ask yourself, what am I feeling? Is it loneliness, rejection, anxiousness, excitement? I want you to just name the emotion that you're feeling first. And then I want you to ask yourself, what story am I creating? They're losing interest. I did something wrong. They're going to leave me. I just want you to notice the narrative that you're creating off of that feeling. And then I want you to ask yourself, what are you needing? Validation, security, connection, comfort. Sometimes the need isn't actually really about them. So, am I seeking connection or reassurance? And this question changes everything. And then, what other question to ask is, what would secure attachment look like for me? How would your healthiest self respond to this situation right now? And what would someone who trusted themselves do next? And this is how we break the dynamic and the cycle within this.
If you want to understand your ADHD in a deeper way, I've created the ADHD Crash Course, and it walks you through ADHD step by step so that you can actually start understanding your brain and not shaming it. Everything's in small, doable lessons designed for your ADHD in mind. The link is in the show notes.
I want to be really careful here. Healing doesn't mean becoming emotionally independent from everyone. We all need connection. We all need love. The goal isn't to stop needing people. The goal is to stop needing someone else to determine your worth. That is secure attachment. So the next time you notice yourself checking your phone for someone's message, your weekly challenge is to pause. And instead of asking, why haven't they texted me? I want you to ask, what am I hoping this text will make me feel? I want you to write down that answer. You may discover you're looking for something much deeper than a conversation from that person. If there's one thing I hope you remember today, is that love should add to your life. It shouldn't become your entire emotional foundation. Healthy relationships support your identity. They do not replace it. You deserve a love where you can be fully connected without disappearing in the process. I want to thank you for joining me. And as always, be gentle with your mind.